What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last several weeks, all of the talk has been about large video game company acquisitions, and it doesn't look like that talk is going to die down anytime soon, with more rumors and speculation getting out there. We're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Microsoft's current acquisition that they're dealing with. That's the Activision Blizzard deal that, well, it looks like it might be a bit harder than they originally thought to complete. And we're also going to be talking about video games today, as there are some large sales currently ongoing for the Xbox and the Switch. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass for the month of February. It looks like several games will be heading into the service, and we'll take a look here at news.xbox.com. Nice little card at the top here showing off all of the different games. And we'll be starting February 3rd with Contrast, that's cloud and console. Moving up to Dreamscaper, cloud, console, and PC, and then Telling Lies, cloud, console, and PC. Moving to February 10th, we have Besiege, that's cloud, console, and PC. Crossfire X on console. This is one that I've been keeping an eye on. The campaign is done by Remedy, and they're putting like one of the campaigns in the Game Pass here. There's also a free-to-play multiplayer that should be launching around the same time, so definitely worth checking out that. Edge of Eternity, that's cloud, console, and PC. This apparently released a year ago on PC and is kind of a callback to like the old JRPG turn-based games from like Chrono Trigger or some of the older Final Fantasies. Might be, again, worth checking out. Then we have Skull the Hero Slayer and The Last Kids on Earth and The Staff of Doom. And then moving up to February 14th, we have Ark Ultimate Survivor Edition, cloud, console, and PC. And then Infernax, that's cloud, console, and PC. We also have several games that will be leaving the service, so keep an eye on these if you wanted to try them out over the next 2 weeks, as they'll be leaving February 15th. And that includes Control, Code Vein, Final Fantasy XII, The Medium, Project Winter, and The Falconeer. So quite the list there. And you're going to want to check out some of these titles like Final Fantasy XII, although you have 2 weeks to check that one out, and then something like Control. That's the thing with these subscription services. While it's great to see games go into them, you have to remember some of these third-party games have limited contract windows, and eventually they will leave the service. But as for games heading in for February, looks like a pretty good start to the month. Also, Dying Light 2 is scheduled to release on Friday, and I'm excited to jump in and check this one out. But we have talked about how file sizes, we're at least expecting them to shrink for current gen systems now with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Looks like Dying Light 2 might be the latest example of this. We can see this image that was posted up on Twitter by Max, who shows Dying Light 2 on both the PS4 and the PS5 next to each other, with the PS5 version being about half of that 50 gigabyte PS4 version. The PS5, Dying Light 2 coming in at 25 gigabytes. We heard that from Mark Cerny that redundant data files would not be needed for the SSDs that are in the PS5 and technically the Xbox Series X, and that would eliminate some of the bloat that we've seen with some of the games from last generation. And I hope this is a trend going forward. We know Sony is also using a compression technology for their PS5, but we've also seen some of their games still be like 80 to 100 gigabytes. So I hope that as we head through this generation, we do see games continue to shrink down. But I'm not necessarily holding my breath for that one, as I understand developers also like to push things pretty seriously when it comes to visuals, especially on some of these newer platforms. Oh, and we just talked about Team 17 yesterday, diving into the world of NFTs. Well, it looks like just 24 hours later, they've reversed course. We can see this tweet saying Team 17 is today announcing an end to the Meta Worms NFT project. We have listened to our Teamsters, development partners in our games communities, and the concerns they've expressed, and have therefore taken the decision to step back from the NFT space. Where have we seen this one before? Oh yeah, basically every time an independent studio or developer or publisher decides to attempt to do something with NFTs, whether it's integrating into their game or just releasing some of their IPs as just NFTs on the open marketplace, I'd like to think that they've noticed this trend, that the announcement happens and then a day or two later they backtrack on it completely. But hey, we'll see. I'm sure this will happen all over again probably next week. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft's ongoing acquisition for Activision Blizzard. That is something that is supposed to wrap up by middle of 2023. Could be sooner. Like if they get all the paperwork done and everything seems fine, we could see it months before then. But it looks like it might be a little harder for Microsoft to get this deal done, maybe than originally anticipated. And there are a lot of headlines and stories kind of breaking around the FTC getting involved. We can see this posted up over on gamesindustry.biz, FTC to investigate Microsoft Activision deal. The FTC is to investigate whether the purchase will harm competition instead of the U.S. Justice Department, a source close to the matter told Bloomberg. The publication pointed out that antitrust reviews can be a responsibility of either entity, with the FTC usually more aggressive in its policing than the Justice Department. And it was pointed out here that the FTC is currently looking to block the NVIDIA ARM deal that's worth about $40 billion. And people are comparing like the Microsoft deal to the NVIDIA ARM deal. I think that's because of the amount of money that's involved. I mean, like 40 billion, 68 billion. Yeah, they're a bit more comparable than like Sony, what we just talked about, 3.6 billion or something for Bungie. However, NVIDIA looking to acquire ARM, I think is just a bigger deal overall, especially in their space, considering ARM is something that's used by pretty much all of their competitors. If you look around in the semiconductor space, Apple made heavy bets on ARM architecture, especially in their current laptops, the new M1 chip. And then they also, of course, use them in their phones, tablets, basically everything, right? And obviously you look at like Samsung with their phones, and if NVIDIA controls ARM, I mean, they could do a lot to maybe hinder supply or even advancements for their competition all the way around. And I think that's one of the reasons it's looked at as a bigger deal. You would assume that ARM would remain independent from all these larger companies that are developing different consumer electronics, whether it's video cards, PCs, or phones. Microsoft, on the other hand, isn't necessarily looking to buy an underlying technology that Sony and Nintendo and a bunch of other companies are using. They would be buying a company that controls IPs on other consoles, sure, but really, if you looked at what Phil Spencer said, I think his wording was very careful as just part of this entire process. Oh, Call of Duty will still remain on PlayStation. Okay, yeah, it's just Warzone, but it'll still remain on PlayStation. And I think a lot of that has to do with trying to get this deal through with regulatory bodies like the FTC looking into this now. And you would expect that, and that's one of the reasons, while we don't know completely if this deal will go through or not, I am leaning on the side of, yeah, it's probably going to happen. Most likely by this time next year, we could see the deal close, and we'll be talking about all those Activision Blizzard games heading into Game Pass and maybe what Microsoft could be doing with those studios that we assume would be free from having to work on Call of Duty, the newest one, and then Warzone constantly. We get Toys for Bob back on some interesting things like a new Spyro, and maybe have Vicarious Visions come back and try a new Tony Hawk game. So I'm thinking for now the FTC getting involved is just business as usual, but I'm sure we'll have more updates come out as this story continues to unfold. Next up, let's talk about things that'll probably keep the FTC busy for a while, and those are large video game company acquisitions. We saw Sony and Microsoft make some moves here over the last couple of weeks, and it looks like we could be seeing another large acquisition happen here in the near future. At least that, according to Jeff Keighley, and I will say other people that I've been seeing kind of throwing some information around, which we'll get to here in a second. But let's take a look at Jeff Keighley's tweet saying, have heard from multiple people. As you might suspect, there are a few other big video game deals in final stages of negotiations. It's going to be an interesting year. Now, this has been pointed out by quite a few people. The reason we didn't know about the Bungie-Sony deal, I mean, it really surprised everyone that Sony was buying Bungie for $3.6 billion, is because if that information got out for publicly traded companies, as an example, and like Microsoft buying Activision, that would be a problem for things like insider trading. Like if you had told someone, hey, next week Microsoft is going to buy Activision Blizzard and shareholders get paid out a premium per share, that person might just go invest in them. And if it's large, like people with a lot of money, again, insider trading, that would kind of be an issue, I would say. So a lot of those deals have to be kept very, very secretive, which is one of the reasons I have a hard time when we see seemingly everyone's like, oh yeah, acquisitions are coming, get ready. It's like, yeah, probably. Sony did say, yeah, we're going to look around to acquire more companies, more studios. We've seen Microsoft say, well, we're not necessarily done yet. We're still looking around. So Yeah, I would expect something to probably happen before the end of 2022. You know what? We might even have a Nintendo Direct. Could be like a big state of play. That might happen. 2022 could be a big year. But if we step back and look at the video game landscape and potentially who could be on the list of acquisitions, I kind of look at Ubisoft. My only problem with that, though, is Sony could buy them. Like, I believe that could happen. But I feel like Microsoft would be more interested in trying to make that like a reality, like bring them in. Ubisoft will become part of their first party studios and then have their subscription service merge in with Game Pass, which would bring a massive amount of games and content in like overnight. But they're already under the microscope now for Activision Blizzard. Would they really be able to make a big move on Ubisoft as well? I guess at the very least, I feel like Microsoft might look towards Square Enix, not buy Square, but maybe buy Crystal Dynamics and merge them in with the initiative. I think that's very possible there. Now, Square does come up a lot for Sony, and yeah, I think Sony could make that happen if they really wanted to. They already have a working relationship with them for Final Fantasy, which is a massive IP for Square there. But a lot of this comes down to, does Square want to be purchased? Like, we're not talking about hostile takeovers here. So if there is no actual offer on the table and really that company looking at it and saying, yeah, we'll do that, then it's not going to happen. So again, it's really anyone's guess as to who could be acquired and who like Jeff Keighley could be talking about here. But I think we're going to see a lot of acquisitions coming up, and I think some of them are going to come out of left field and surprise some people. And a lot of it's been talked about for things like inflation, cash in the bank. We're talking about millions, even billions of dollars. It's better to invest for your future when inflation might not be as high, and then you get a whole revenue stream out of it. I don't know if Nintendo will make a move. I think it'd be interesting to see where they would go with it, but most likely they would look to pick up a partner they've been working with for a long time, Intelligent Systems as an example, especially with what they did with Next Level Games. But that was more of a defensive purchase because it sounded like Next Level was looking to be purchased and they might go outside of Nintendo at that time. So who knows? Maybe some of these partners that Nintendo's working with is looking outside of Nintendo because they want to be absorbed or purchased and get a bunch of money that way. So we'll see. But hey, it seems like everyone's in agreement that someone needs to buy Konami. That's like the biggest thing. It comes up as like consolidation is really bad for the gaming industry, but you know, I wouldn't mind if someone bought Konami and actually did something with Metal Gear. Next up, let's talk about a couple of sales that are currently ongoing for the Xbox and the Switch. We'll start with the Xbox here and head over to Xbox.com. This is the Anime Month sale, and they actually have quite a few titles with some pretty good discounts right now. I always say look towards the different collections that are on sale, and Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2 at $20. The amount of content there is an absolute steal. Certainly look into that one there. Then you have Naruto to Boruto, that Shinobi Striker Deluxe Edition at $9. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, $9. Code Vein at $11.99. You have Attack on Titan 2 at $30. Crease Tales at $20. Dragon Ball FighterZ Ultimate Edition at $16.49. Mega Man 11 at $15. Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection at $19.49. My Hero 1's Justice 2 at $19.79. It does look like there are quite a few Naruto games on sale. You have Ninja Storm 4 at $9.89 and Ninja Storm Legacy at $17.49. And then we also have Ys Origin at $7.99 and Valkyria Chronicles 4 at $11.99. Now the Switch also has a large sale going on, and I'll actually link to Nintendo Everything, who has a good list right now of all of the different games that we can kind of scroll through here as I'm picking some out. Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection at $14.79. Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 at $10. Burnout Paradise Remastered at $9.89. They have the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle at $9.99. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen at $14.99. Gear Club Unlimited, $2.98. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, which is an awesome game, $19.79. Immortals Phoenix Rising at $14.99. That was a really fun Assassin's Creed-like game. It was certainly, I think, a bit more streamlined than Assassin's Creed and didn't take itself very seriously there. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle at $14.99. If you were looking towards the new Mario Rabbids game that's, I guess, coming out sometime this year, definitely want to check this one out if you have not played it yet. I think that's a great price for it. All of the Mega Man Legacy collections also on sale, and you can pick them up for $10 a piece there. Or, again, Mega Man 11 at $14.99. Several of the Resident Evil games are on sale. Resident Evil, $12.99, 0, $12.99, then 4, 5, and 6, all $14.99. You also have Revelations 1 and 2 at $7.99 each. And I have to give a shout out to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, at $7.49. So a lot of games on sale here for the Xbox and the Switch. Take a look at the list and, of course, leave some suggestions down below in the comments. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Battlefield 2042. Kind of had a rough launch, we'll say, when it came out, and since then, it's been missing a lot of features that people who've been playing Battlefield for a while now have pointed out, and we'll say given EA and DICE feedback over. Well, it looks like the game itself did not meet expectations. This, according to CEO Andrew Wilson on a call with investors yesterday, which we can see this here, where he says, developing this game with our teams working from home for nearly 2 years ultimately proved to be challenging. Through our process of testing and preparation, we believe the experience was ready to be put in our players' hands. We launched with strong stability. However, as more players experienced the full game, it became clear there were unanticipated performance issues that we would need to address. Some of the design choices we made with the game also did not resonate with everyone in our community. Now, there was a card that was put up just before this conference call, going over some of their plans basically throughout this year. Also talking about Season 1. Now, here's the card. They say, we're taking action on multiple fronts to address feedback and implement extensive fixes to the game, key features that are important to you, and getting team play where it needs to be. After the release of an update in early March, which will include improvements to scoreboards, subsequent updates will prioritize work that will include voice communication and player profile, which seems strange because you feel like a game that has as much strategy as Battlefield has in it, you would want to talk to your squad. Also, a tighter squad loop, including a refined ping system, feedback-based improvements to gunplay, improved reward loop, expanded tools, modes, and tweaks to player experience gains in Battlefield Portal. Now, they go on to say, with a focus on improving these core elements of the game, we've made the big decision to move Season 1 to early summer. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that Battlefield just wasn't ready to release, right? Like, I think most people can look at this situation and say, it sounds like you shouldn't have launched the thing until summer as it is. Obviously, they wanted to get it out in time for the holidays. This was a full price game, and in some cases, had like the dual entitlement thing where you had to spend even more money to have it on different platforms, and unfortunately, it's a mess. If you look at the concurrent player count, it's basically the same as Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1. That's right, it's the same as Battlefield 5. That's not great company. I guess we'll see what happens as they go along and work to add a scoreboard, voice chat, and basically a lot of features you would have expected to be there when it released months ago. So look towards the beginning of summer for Season 1 to kick off, and hopefully the game to be in a better state. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, more video game studio and publisher acquisitions are being rumored for 2022. Which of the 3 platform holders do you think will be next to announce a new acquisition this year? 33% said Microsoft, 43% said Sony, 11% said Nintendo, and 12% said none of the platform holders will acquire another studio in 2022. This is setting up perfectly for Nintendo to shock the world and acquire a big studio. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Nintendo is just going to continue with their partnerships going forward with other developers and studios that they don't own, because they'd rather just go the route of not having that liability necessarily of having to manage each and every single studio they bring in that wasn't built from within. Whereas Sony, I do believe, is going to make another big move. Microsoft, I think, is kind of stuck right now with this Activision Blizzard thing now really coming under the microscope, but who knows? We've been surprised several times already, and I think it's going to keep happening here in the coming months. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Or, saying the ZeniMax and Minecraft deals right now seem like a bargain. I know that Destiny 2 makes a lot of money. Again, I feel like they've spent that much money on Bungie, which I do believe is more than most people were expecting Bungie to be worth, for the knowledge and the proprietary tools and everything that Bungie has really developed throughout their time creating Destiny and then Destiny 2. Because Sony has the IPs to create a live service game. They just need the know-how to do it. But if I have to look around, the best deal so far, probably Insomniac. It's like $230 million, and they have been working hard to hold up that PS5 in its first year with things like Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man. I mean, Insomniac is responsible for what some would say is Sony's biggest intellectual property right now, is Spider-Man really blowing up in the movie theater. Obviously, we see billions of dollars there, and then we look over and seeing it selling millions and millions of copies on the PlayStation. And I mean, Spider-Man 2 is gonna, I think, set some records when that does release in 2023. But yeah, you look around, you're like $3.6 billion for Bungie, $230 million for Insomniac. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the FTC getting involved with Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard? Do you think there's going to be an issue there? Do you think it's going to be business as usual for Microsoft? And then, obviously, what's the next big studio in gaming that you think is going to be acquired? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.